Invested: How Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger Taught Me to Master My Mind, My Emotions, and My Money with a Little Help from My Dad, by Danielle Town. Introduction. Imagine for a moment a young lawyer. She's done everything right. She went to the best schools, earned 4 degrees, and landed a dream job at a prestigious international law firm. From the outside, she is the very picture of success. She makes what anyone would call really good money. But inside, something is deeply wrong. Her weeks are a blur of 80-hour workdays. She hasn't truly looked up from her desk in months. The stress has become so constant that her body has started to revolt. For 2 years, she hasn't been able to properly digest food. Random fevers spike out of nowhere. Dizzy spells hit her like a physical blow. Her doctor gently suggests that her illness is caused by stress, but she doesn't even feel stressed anymore. This constant, grinding pressure has become her normal. One cold January morning, looking out her window, she has a devastating realization. The reward for all her hard work isn't freedom. The reward is just more work. More stress. A lifelong treadmill where she is completely dependent on her salary, with no end in sight. She thought she had invested in herself, but she had actually invested in a cage. This isn't just a story about a burnt-out lawyer. It's a story about a feeling so many of us know intimately: the quiet panic of being trapped. The feeling that your life is being dictated by student loans, a mortgage, and the relentless need for a paycheck. It's the feeling of being a wage slave, even in a high-paying profession. That young lawyer is Danielle Town. And in her moment of quiet desperation, she did something that would change everything. She called her dad. What followed was a 12-month journey, a reluctant, fearful, and ultimately triumphant quest to master her mind, her emotions, and her money. It's a story laid out in her incredible book, Invested. This isn't just another book about picking stocks. It's a roadmap to financial freedom, written for people who are afraid of the stock market, bored by balance sheets, and convinced that investing is a world they can never understand. By the end of our time together today, you will understand the profound shift in thinking that took Danielle from financial fear to financial freedom. You will learn the 4 simple, timeless principles taught by the world's greatest investors, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and discover how to turn the terrifying world of finance into a personal, passionate, and deeply meaningful practice. This is the story of how anyone, truly anyone, can learn to build real, lasting wealth and design the life they were meant to live. Book summary. Our story begins where so many of our own financial stories do, with a sense of being completely overwhelmed. When Danielle Town looked at the world of finance, she saw a long, dark path of thick, swirling gray fog filled with numbers and balance sheets. It was a world for other people. The math geniuses. The risk takers. Not for her. She was a lawyer, trained to be cautious, risk-averse, and certain of the facts. The stock market seemed like the opposite of that, a chaotic, unpredictable casino. Her feelings were made even more complicated by her family history. Her father, Phil Town, is a world-renowned investor, a best-selling author on the subject who turned a tiny sum of money into a fortune. You'd think she would have grown up with this knowledge, that it would be in her blood. But life is rarely that simple. Her parents' difficult divorce during her childhood created a deep rift, and anything to do with her father's work, with money, with investing, became colored by feelings of anxiety and abandonment. For years, whenever her dad would try to teach her, she would just tune him out. So, when she finally calls him in her moment of crisis, it's out of desperation. She doesn't want to learn to invest. She just wants the problem to go away. She wants freedom money, the ability to leave her job without worrying about the bills. Her dad's answer is simple and, to her, deeply frustrating. You have to start investing, he says. Then you'll have the money to have the choice. Right now, you have no choice. Danielle, like most of us when faced with a scary, complex problem, immediately looks for an easier path. She sees only two options available to a normal person, what she calls the two great temptations of personal finance: hoard or abdicate. The first path is hoarding. Just save, save, save. Stop buying anything extra, pile up cash in a savings account, and keep it safe under the mattress, metaphorically speaking. It sounds like the most conservative, responsible thing to do. It's literally following what she thinks is rule one of investing: don't lose money. She's thrilled with this plan. It feels safe. It feels certain. Until her dad asks her a simple, devastating question over brunch one Sunday. What about inflation? And here, we come to the first great awakening in Danielle's journey. It's a concept we've all heard of, but few of us have truly confronted its terrifying power. Her dad explains it with a can of Coke. When he was a kid, a Coke cost a dime. Today, it's $1.50 or more. It's the same Coke. But the money, the dime, has lost its power. Over time, because governments want to encourage economic growth, the value of money slowly, silently erodes. The dollar you save today will literally be worth less tomorrow. And less the day after. And a whole lot less in 30 years. He shows her a chart, and the truth is brutal. At a historical average inflation rate of 3% per year, the buying power of $1 drops to just 40 cents over 30 years. Danielle is stunned. Wait, she says, you cannot be saying that saving literally makes me lose money. I have to invest just to tread water? That is exactly what I'm saying, her dad replies. This is a profound realization. The act of doing nothing with your money isn't neutral. It's a guaranteed loss. The rat of inflation is already under your mattress, nibbling away at your savings, $1 at a time. Hoarding isn't an option. It's a slow financial death. So, she turns to the second path: abdication. This is the path most people take. We're too busy, we don't understand it, so we give our money to a professional, a financial advisor, a mutual fund manager, and pay them a fee to handle it for us. We want to trust someone who does this for a living, as Martin Short says in Father of the Bride. It seems so appealing. But her dad is ready for this argument. He promises to prove to her that, for most people, abdicating will never get them to financial freedom. First, she discovers that many advisors won't even talk to her because she doesn't have enough money to invest, often needing a minimum of $250,000 or even millions. But the bigger problem is the fees. Whether it's a mutual fund, an exchange-traded fund, or a robo-advisor, there are layers of fees. There's the advisor's fee, often 1 to 2%. Then there are the fees inside the funds themselves. All told, it can easily add up to 3% per year. And here's the craziest part: they get paid whether they make you money or lose you money. It's a service fee, not a performance fee. So, let's do the math. You have inflation eating away 3% of your money's value. Then you have fees eating away another 3% of your money. That means you have to earn a 6% return just to break even. Danielle's dad runs the numbers for her. He calls it finding your number, the amount of money you need to be financially free. If she abdicates her money to an advisor who charges typical fees, and the market delivers its historical average return of about 7%, she'll get to keep about 4 or 5%. The result? She saves diligently for 30 years, and runs out of money 7 years into retirement. She'll be working at Walmart until she dies. Abdication, for most of us, is just a slower, more expensive path to the same destination as hoarding. It doesn't lead to freedom. Danielle is trapped. Hoarding is a losing game. Abdicating is a losing game. She feels the walls of that concrete stairwell closing in. She is left with only one path, the one she has been avoiding her entire life. She has to learn to do it herself. And this is where the real journey begins. She agrees to a one-year apprenticeship with her father. She decides to treat it not as a chore, but as a practice. An investing practice, just like her yoga practice. Something to be integrated into her life, something she can get better at over time. But there's still a huge problem. She has no passion for it. It's all just numbers and fear. How can she stick with something she fundamentally dislikes? This leads her to the single most important breakthrough in the book. It's the idea that transforms investing from a cold calculation into a passionate mission. She realizes that every dollar she spends is a vote for the kind of world she wants to live in. She buys organic food, sweatshop-free clothing. Why should her investment dollars be any different? Suddenly, she sees it. She can vote with her money on a much grander scale. She can choose to own pieces of companies that share her values, companies that treat their employees well, that are environmentally responsible, that have a mission to make the world a better place. This is the key. This is what finally ignites her passion. She doesn't want to own a company that treats its employees poorly, like Walmart, or that has questionable supply chains, like McDonald's. She wants to support the conscious capitalists, the leaders with integrity, the companies that understand the bottom line is required for their existence, but not the only reason for their existence. She is no longer just trying to make money. She is building a portfolio that reflects her soul. She is becoming a mission-oriented investor. This powerful why gives her the courage to finally face the how. Her father doesn't start with complicated formulas. He starts with the wisdom of the masters he learned from: Warren Buffett and his partner, Charlie Munger. These two men are legends, arguably the greatest investors in history, who built a multi-billion-dollar empire from Omaha, Nebraska, with a philosophy so simple it can be summarized on a single note card. Danielle's dad shows her a one-minute video of Charlie Munger, who lays out their entire strategy in 4 simple principles. These 4 principles become the curriculum for Danielle's year-long practice. They are the pillars of Rule 1 investing. The first principle is this: only invest in a business you are capable of understanding. This sounds simple, but it's profound. Danielle's initial reaction is panic. How can she ever truly understand a massive public company? But her dad clarifies. Charlie Munger didn't say you have to understand it now. He said you have to be capable of understanding it in the future. And he offers a beautiful analogy. Think of it like buying her condo. She understood that investment. She knew the neighborhood, the local economy, the long-term prospects. Investing in a company is the same. The neighborhood is the industry. You don't need to be an expert in everything. In fact, you shouldn't be. Buffett calls this your circle of competence. Your job is to know the boundaries of that circle and stay far away from the edge. To find her circle, her dad guides her through a simple 3-circle exercise. Draw 3 overlapping circles and label them. 1. What are you passionate about? 2. Where do you spend your money? 3. Where do you make your money? The area where these 3 circles overlap? For Danielle, it was things like yoga, healthy food, and cars. That's the starting point for her research. You don't get extra points for choosing a complicated industry like biotechnology if you know nothing about it. Start with what you know. Start with what's obvious. The second principle is, the business must have an intrinsic and durable competitive advantage. Buffett has a more memorable name for this. He calls it a moat. Just like a moat protects a castle from invaders, a great business needs a competitive advantage that is so powerful, so difficult to overcome, that competitors won't even try to attack. Danielle learns there are 5 main types of moats. A brand moat, like Coca-Cola. The name itself is so powerful that people ask for a Coke when they just mean a soda. A switching moat, like Apple. Once you're in their ecosystem of iPhones, Macs, and iPads, it's just too painful and expensive to switch to something else. A toll bridge moat, like a railroad. A company has a near monopoly. It's practically impossible for a competitor to build another set of tracks right next to theirs. A secrets moat, like a pharmaceutical company with a patent on a life-saving drug, or a company with a secret formula. And finally, a price moat, like Costco. They can sell their products cheaper than anyone else because of their immense buying power, and they can sustain that advantage. This moat is the key to a company's long-term survival. It's what makes the future predictable. And to know if a moat is real, you look at the numbers. Danielle learns to check what her dad calls the big 4 numbers: net income, book value, sales, and operating cash. Are they consistent? Are they growing predictably over time, at least 10% per year? A strong, durable moat will show up in these numbers. The third principle is, the business should have management with integrity and talent. This one is tricky. It's hard to judge character from afar. But Danielle learns to look for clues. Does the CEO talk openly and honestly in their letters to shareholders, admitting mistakes as well as successes, the way Buffett does? Or do they gloss over problems and blame others? Are they genuinely passionate about the business, like a founder? Or are they a hired gun just looking for a big paycheck? Again, there are numbers to back this up. 2 key metrics are return on equity (ROE) and return on invested capital (ROIC). These numbers, simply put, tell you how good the management is at turning the owner's money into more money. A great management team will consistently generate returns of 15% or higher. And finally, look at the debt. Great managers avoid debt. A company should be able to pay off all its long-term debt with just 1 or 2 years of its earnings. After months of practice, Danielle is feeling more confident. She understands how to find a wonderful business. But now comes the part she's been dreading the most. The moth. This brings us to the fourth and final principle. The business must be available at a price that makes sense and provides a margin of safety. This principle is the heart of value investing. It's not enough to find a great company. You have to buy it on sale. The margin of safety is the discount. It's buying $1 for 50 cents. It's the cushion that protects you if you make a mistake. But how do things go on sale? Her dad explains that the market isn't rational. It's emotional. It's driven by the very same emotions that Danielle has been battling: fear and greed. Sometimes, an event happens, a temporary problem that affects a company, an industry, or the whole market. Wall Street panics and sells, and the price of a wonderful company can drop far below its actual value. That's when the Rule 1 investor, who has been waiting patiently in cash, steps in. As Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. To figure out the right price, Danielle's dad teaches her 3 different valuation methods. This is where she nearly gives up. The numbers swim in her head. She has a meltdown, crying over the kitchen sink in Zurich because she feels like a failure. But with some encouragement, she realizes she doesn't need to memorize formulas. She needs to understand the logic. The first method is the 10-cap price. It's a simple real estate investor's tool. You figure out the company's owner earnings, the real cash the business generates in a year, and you multiply it by 10. That gives you a price that would yield a 10% return in the first year. It's a fantastic price for a great business, and it rarely comes along outside of a crisis. The second method is the payback time price. This method asks, how many years would it take for the company's growing cash flow to pay you back your entire initial investment? The goal is to get your money back in 8 years or less. After that, you're playing with house money. The third and final method is the margin of safety valuation. This is the most comprehensive. It involves projecting the company's earnings 10 years into the future, figuring out what the stock price might be then, and then discounting that price back to today to see what you should pay now to get a 15% annual return. Once you have that sticker price, you cut it in half. That 50% discount is your margin of safety. After weeks of struggle, Danielle finally conquers the math. She now has 3 different prices for a single company. The final step is to use her judgment, her windage, to decide on a final buy price. She's done it. She knows how to find a wonderful company, and she knows what price to pay for it. But there's one last, crucial step. It's what separates the amateurs from the masters. It's the tool to fight our own worst enemy, ourselves. It's called the inversion. We humans suffer from confirmation bias. Once we fall in love with an idea, or a company, we unconsciously seek out information that confirms our belief and ignore anything that contradicts it. To combat this, Charlie Munger says, invert, always invert. After building the entire story for why you should buy a company, you have to flip it on its head and build the strongest possible argument for why you shouldn't buy it. You have to cross-examine your own best ideas. Find the holes. Play devil's advocate. If, after ruthlessly trying to tear your own argument apart, the case for buying is still standing strong, only then can you be truly certain. This whole process, the 4 principles, the pricing, the inversion, is a system designed to remove emotion and enforce discipline. But Danielle knows that until she puts real money on the line, it's all just theory. So she decides to take an emotional test drive. She takes a small amount of money, a few $100s, enough that she'll feel it, and decides to buy what she calls practice shares. It's not an investment, it's an educational experience. She buys a few shares of Whole Foods. The moment she clicks buy, her emotions go haywire. The price goes up a penny, she's ecstatic. It goes down 2 cents, her heart sinks. She's addicted to checking the price. It's torture. This experience teaches her a vital lesson. You have to separate yourself from the daily noise of the market. Trust your research, not the minute-to-minute fluctuations. The year is coming to an end. Danielle has learned the entire practice. She understands how to build an anti-fragile portfolio, one that doesn't just survive chaos, but actually benefits from it. And she's learned the final rule: when to sell. The answer? Never. Unless the story changes. If the company's moat is breached, if the management loses its integrity, or if the price becomes absurdly high, then you sell. Otherwise, you hold on and let the power of compounding work its magic. One day, she feels it. She's ready. She's no longer afraid. She takes a real position in Whole Foods, buying her first tranche of shares. It feels easy, almost anticlimactic. All the practice, all the emotional work, has paid off. She is an investor. The book culminates in a beautiful resolution. Danielle quits her soul-crushing law firm job, sells her condo, pays off her student loans, and moves to Zurich to be with the man she loves. She has found freedom. Not just financial freedom, but the freedom to design her life. And then, the epilogue provides the perfect payoff. In June 2017, Amazon announces it will acquire Whole Foods at a price of $42 per share. Danielle sells her shares. Her total return on her first real investment? 41%. She had gotten it right. The practice worked. And her new life, the one she had barely dared to dream of just a year before, was just beginning. Commentary. When you finish a book like Invested, you realize it's about so much more than money. At its core, this is a story about taking ownership. It's about the journey from being a passive passenger in your own life to grabbing the steering wheel with both hands. Danielle Town's story is so powerful because it starts from a place of genuine fear and vulnerability. She gives a voice to the silent anxiety that so many of us carry around our finances. The feeling of being an outsider, the fear of not being good at math, the suspicion that the whole system is rigged against the little guy. She makes it okay to feel that way. But she doesn't let us stay there. The most profound lesson in this book, for me, is the idea of transforming your relationship with money by aligning it with your values. The concept of voting for a mission is a complete game changer. It reframes investing from a selfish act of accumulation into a powerful act of creation. It asks a beautiful question: what kind of world do you want to help build with your capital? When you start asking that question, the fear begins to fade, and a sense of purpose takes its place. Suddenly, reading an annual report isn't a chore, it's an act of discovery, a way to see if a company's soul aligns with your own. The second powerful takeaway is the idea of an investing practice. We live in a culture that wants instant results, a magic formula, a hot stock tip. This book offers the opposite. It offers a path of patience, discipline, and lifelong learning. Like yoga or meditation, it's not something you master overnight. It's something you show up for. You get on the mat. Some days are good, some days are hard, but every day you practice, you get a little stronger, a little wiser. This approach removes the pressure to be perfect and replaces it with a commitment to be present. So, what can you do, right now, to begin your own practice? First, just like Danielle, start by defining what freedom truly means to you. It's not just a number. It's a feeling. What would you do if you weren't worried about the bills? Would you change jobs, start a business, travel, spend more time with your family? Write it down. Make it real. That vision is the fuel for your entire journey. Second, do the 3 circles exercise. What are you passionate about? Where do you already spend your money? Where do you make your money? The intersection of these circles is your starting point. It's your unique circle of competence. You already know more than you think you do. And finally, just start paying attention. As you go about your day, notice the companies behind the products and services you use. The toothpaste you use, the car you drive, the coffee you drink. Who makes them? What's their story? This simple shift from being an unconscious consumer to a conscious observer is the first step toward becoming an investor. That was our deep dive into Invested by Danielle Town. We've explored the path from fear to freedom today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only scratch the surface. The real transformation happens when you walk the path yourself. It's in the quiet moments of reading when a particular story or a simple phrase resonates in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your map, but the book is the journey. If anything we've talked about has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see your money, your future, and yourself. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the books that shape the world's most successful minds, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.